All right, welcome everyone. Appreciate you coming out on a chilly night. We'll call the meeting to order, and Jeff will do the invocation.
That's great. Father, we pause here at the end of the year. We thank you for this time of year. Let's help everybody in this room, our entire community, look up, seek the light that has entered this world. I thank you for the impact that everybody in this room has had on our community, our guests here this evening, and I think about this board service to community, coming to serve. I ask now that as we look at the agenda for tonight, that we have humble hearts and sharp minds. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks, Jeff. The somewhat abbreviated schedule and agenda tonight. We'll get started. I'll start with the approval of the minutes from the December 2nd meeting. Those were in your board pack, and any changes noted? If not, is there a motion to approve them as presented?
So moved.
Second. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. Let the minutes reflect Diane Quantz is absent tonight, so there are 6 here. All right, doesn't appear that we have any reports, oral or written. I would like to recognize all our visitors tonight. Welcome. And let's move into unfinished business. I know this item isn't detailed under unfinished business, but I know there had been some discussion to continue the talk about the council attorney. So with that, Mike, do you have a few comments to make, and then we'll just have our discussion.
I'm trying to log on. Is anyone else? Do I have any comments to make? I have really struggled with this issue. It's really complicated, I'm finding out. It's a very difficult issue that I've spent probably way too much time on it. I would like to hear from our attorney, and get his take on this. I know I've been very vocal and trying to champion the fact that I feel this council at times needs some legal counsel. We don't need it all the time, but there are situations that have arisen in the past that have made me wonder, what to do, how to do. And I wished I would have had somebody I could have called on that would represent the interests of the council. And that's nothing personal against the city attorney. I still believe that it's important that we do it. I'm not sure that I really understood the workings of it. I thought I did. And I'm still not sure. I'd like to hear again from the city attorney. I would also like to hear from the attorney that we have contacted and talked to. I'd like to maybe invite him up here and see, his take on this. I had a very fruitful conversation tonight with the city attorney, and it clarified a few things in my head that satisfied to some extent my wishes and desires and needs. And I'll let him explain that to the rest of you. And I've probably talked too much, but this is an issue that I feel not only is it near and dear to my heart, given this past year, it was a year filled with, let's just say it was tumultuous. It was a hard year. And it wasn't a hard year not only for me, but for many. And for that reason, I would like to have some counsel when I need it. I guess it's kind of like going to the priest when you need to talk to somebody. I'm not going to give up on it. I think we have to work within parameters. I think I would really like to put forth a request, Mr. Dixon, if you should win. I think the state legislature really needs to address this issue, because as it is written, it is so ambiguous. I mean, it's just open for interpretation. Council may hire, legislative body may hire an attorney or a legal assistant on the terms that it sees fit. That's all it says. What's that mean? I've talked to several attorneys in town, at least half a dozen. Everyone that has come to me, a lot of people have come to me, and to a person, they have all said, we support what you're trying to do. I've even had other people in office say, we're watching what you're doing because we want to do the same thing. So it's an issue that I think the state really needs to address. We are, as I've told Scott Royce, if any skiers out there, the first guy blazing the trail has the toughest time. Everybody else coming in the back, they can just glide. And we're the first skier, so to speak. I don't anticipate using this attorney for nefarious reasons. That's not who I am. I'm a consensus builder. I'm a peacemaker. I want to get along with people. I don't want animosity among this council. I don't want animosity with the mayor. I don't want animosity with you people. I just want what's best for this council going forward and all councils that come after us. And I think sometimes it's appropriate that we have access to legal counsel. I would really like Mr. Lame to come up and talk to us. I would invite him. If we can get a consensus, I would like to invite him to come up. I want to talk tonight about the resolution that I think we passed. I went back in the minutes. I couldn't find it. Somebody said it was there. I want to know exactly what that means, that resolution. I would like to know that that's working for us. I would like to pass the mic to anybody else on this council that wants to speak, but I would like to hear from Scott Royce and have him explain to you all what he explained to me in a very simplified way that kind of clarified a few things in my mind. I have not given up. I just don't know if we're ready. Anybody else?
I'd rather hear from Scott first.
Okay.
So as you all know, the committee of Mr. Shoemaker, Mr. Clondaris, and Ms. Quantz, they've worked very hard and have been at this for months on trying to put together this plan. And as Mr. Clondaris said, it's new, first Tier 3 city to propose this idea, or at least move forward with the idea. As we talked a couple councils ago, I've been in contact with numerous other communities that have a legal counsel for their Tier 2 city, and Indianapolis, the Tier 1 city. What is clear is Indiana Code 364624 states the legislative body may hire a contract with competent attorneys and legal research assistants on terms it considers appropriate. All these other communities that have hired counsel for their legislative body deem that to mean at a public meeting, you meet and determine what you want to hire an attorney for, what the terms would be that you would hire them for. And certainly that's what the statute provides, and that's how it's been done for 50-some years other places. This statute has at least been around since 1980, and other communities have looked at the same issues you all have faced and have come to the consensus that what that means to allow the legislative body to be represented by the attorney is you would bring an issue before the council would vote, and if the majority agreed that that issue should be pursued, then you could hire that attorney. So examples would be if you wanted to bring before the council that you'd like to initiate an investigation of a city employee, you could do that. You could vote, just take a 4-3 vote or better to initiate some investigation and hire an attorney to do that. If you wanted to look at some other aspect, funding or not funding or dealing with a project here in town or a bond issue or any other issues, you could bring it before the council, and by majority vote that would allow you to pursue the terms that you wanted to hire that attorney on. I think Mayor Tallmer's been clear that you're certainly allowed by statute to have that. The statute doesn't state that you can't use duplicate services. I know Mr. Tallmer's stated he'd rather not see that happen, but the statute doesn't contemplate that. It just simply contemplates and is used by all these other communities that you all would have to bring it to a public vote, and if there's a public vote to pursue that issue, then you could hire that attorney to do so. What that also does is it helps eliminate conflicts for the attorney who represents you. Then he knows he's representing the will of the legislative body. So even if some of you on there were not in agreement to pursue that, if the legislative body as a whole, by a majority vote, voted to pursue that, it would help eliminate some of the other conflicts that might occur with representing a group. And I think that's a big reason, additionally, outside of what the statute contemplates, of why it's always been done that it's brought before the legislative body to choose how they want to use that attorney on each issue that they would like for him to pursue. I would contemplate after that you would probably either decide at that meeting to have the council president pursue that, or pick a small committee like you did before of 3 people to pursue that information so that you didn't violate open doors and those kind of things. And you could decide all that at the time you decided to vote on whether or not you wanted to pursue that particular legal matter at that time. But that's how it's been done elsewhere. That's what I think I would advise the Board of Works to approve if we had those protocols in place in the contract, that we move forward with that, and I think that would get it done. So that's where I stand.
So what you're saying is if we have an issue that we feel, we deem necessary to discuss, necessary enough and important enough that we bring it to this body for a discussion and a vote to pursue Agenda A, let's just say Agenda A, and we vote to do it, then we can hire that attorney to do the bidding of the council. Right?
Absolutely, because if someone doesn't like it, they get to come to that mic and gripe at you all about doing it. They get to state their piece, and you get a vote on how it goes. But that's truly how it ends up representing the legislative
So
body.
if, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, and these aren't rhetorical questions because I don't know the answer to them. If we decided we wanted to pursue something like that, would we need a contract to do that?
Well, I think probably your attorney that you're choosing to employ would want a contract. And I
Okay.
think you would want a contract because the Board of Work approves the payments. But if it were done under that scenario, I would advise the Board of Works that they're following the statute, they're following precedent of all the other communities, and I would, under what we've just discussed, recommend that that be approved, that there wouldn't be a legal basis for not approving moving forward with a contract being issued in that
So a
situation.
couple sessions ago, we approved a resolution to hire an attorney. Would that resolution stay in place, and if something were to come up, we would know exactly who to call? If we made a decision to call, we could, it's already established who we're gonna call.
Mike, that, just a side note.
Yeah.
That was October 21st at the meeting, and it's in your board pack. If you go back to the 21st, it is somewhat different from what
Can't
was
get on.
presented. I don't think the specific gentleman you're referring to is mentioned in this resolution.
Oh, okay, well, maybe that's even better. Maybe he wouldn't want to take the case.
Right, I just brought that up because you asked, you had said you weren't able to
Maybe
find
he
it.
would say, well, I'm a criminal lawyer and you need a tax lawyer, or something like that. So maybe that's for the best. But we could still fall back on that resolution and say, we've already decided.
In my
We've got the money
mind,
appropriated, we got the hourly rate established. We're good to go if we should need somebody's service.
I agree with that.
Okay.
So if,
Thank
say,
you.
one of our first things that we might want to do would be to establish some council rules or something, we could bring that to the council for a vote, hiring an attorney to help us establish those rules?
Yeah, if you all, 364624 doesn't really put limitations on what you hire an attorney for. In my mind, it just says, you gotta have a public vote about it, and it's gotta pass with it. In our council, at least 4 of you elected officials have to agree to pursue that. That's what I think 364624 means, and that's what I'm being informed by all the other communities it means to them. Now, how you choose to use it going forward will be up to the 7 of you.
Cindy, my answer to that is I mean, I understand completely anything, a resolution, an ordinance, rules, anything like that. You know, I would suggest you start with the city attorney, have him do that work. That's what he's paid for. That's what he's already paid for. Have that work done. If it doesn't agree with what you want to do, then that can be reviewed by an outside attorney. That's my only concern, is that we're spending money where perhaps we don't need to. And if Scott can do the drafting, if you will, and then if there are issues that you can't work through with him and you feel like, you know, there's a basis for you doing what you want to do, I think that makes sense then, that you have somebody that could review that work and edit it. My concern is that we go out, spend a lot of money on something that we've already got a city attorney for. You can get to a point where if you don't agree, then you still have that option to do that.
I would almost look at an attorney for counsel as maybe a special counsel, or to use that term, a Washington term. Yeah. So an example, see, I was thinking we should just be able to pick up the phone, call the attorney, say, hey, I have a question about procedure. But you're saying we can't do that. That's
Correct.
not how the statute reads, because that's really all, you know, I don't, like I said in my opening remarks, there's nothing nefarious in my intention here. I just want to have counsel sometimes.
I think a big part of that statute is designed to not create any additional conflict amongst council members.
Yeah.
That while you can pick up the phone and ask advice of anybody you choose, for the legislative body would have to be in agreement that funds be spent for that advice.
Okay.
On each issue that you chose to do that. And I think what that really helps eliminate, and probably more so than on our council, there's other places where there's extreme conflict between what the council members may want. We've discussed before, currently, you all are on one party ticket. That may change someday, but you don't have great big disagreements with each other. But I think it's designed to prevent that from happening, and it protects the attorney that you hire from knowing that he's providing advice to a legislative body and not an individual council member.
Well, I like the analogy that you explained to me, that the city's working on a big park, and Councilman A calls the attorney and says, hey, they're building this big park, and it's in my neighborhood, and it's too big for the neighborhood, and I want you to help me get it toned down or even get it out of there. And Councilman B calls the same attorney and says, hey, I want that park as big as it can be, and I want all kinds of access roads and toys, and I want it to be a fun center in somebody else's district. What does the attorney do? You know, he's between a rock and a hard place. So I had an epiphany today, I guess. I understand what you're saying. It probably just didn't click, but as long as I know that we have access to a special counsel if we need it, that's all I really ever was after. Let me ask you this. What does the county do? They have 3 commissioners and they have 1 attorney. How does that work? I mean, isn't he faced with the same thing when one commissioner can call and the other commissioner can call and the third commissioner calls and you got 3 different views? And
I can't speak for the county situation specifically. I think there's a bit of a difference in that the county attorney, I think, is probably chosen and selected by the group of 3 commissioners. I'm guessing that's how it works. We've made it clear. The mayor chooses the city attorney, and that's who has the ultimate authority that I report to. It may be different with the county attorney and who's his hiring person and who he's ultimately mostly loyal to. So that may be different, and so I can't say that for sure, but I believe all 3 commissioners agree to hire the county attorney.
that can't always be the case, and it's not really relevant to us, but I was just wondering if.
But I don't know. I don't know specifically.
While the mayor in a third-class city is the one who appoints the city attorney.
Right.
The definition in the state statute is legal department. So the city, the mayor appoints an attorney to the legal department. And it's not the mayor's personal attorney, it's
Right.
it's the legal department for the entire city, including the council.
Including the council,
Of course, the entire city.
okay. Another question, would there be anything to preclude a councilman from calling an attorney to discuss something, an incident that happened within, a city employee, to call somebody and say, hey, I just want to talk to somebody and get some advice? Can you do that?
You can call and talk to whomever you want.
And just pay personally?
The
That's what I'm talking
statute
about.
just doesn't provide for there to be funds available because it's not a legislative body act when you do that.
Okay. So if we want to talk to somebody and get legal advice on our own, we can.
And I think the practicality of that is generally that's probably how it happens, because then that attorney does not have an obligation to share that with
Right.
the other members of the legislative body.
Right.
Under 364624, his first duty is to make sure he's not creating a conflict with the other people on the council, and would immediately have to share everything that was discussed.
Mhm.
And if not before, make sure he didn't have a conflict with anybody else's opinion before he gave you that.
And Mike, the other answer to that is that the state statute also provides specific protections for elected officials, department heads, employees, that I would avail myself of the city legal department to find out what those protections are. If one is named in a lawsuit, you know, do you need, that issue has come up, you know, do you need your own attorney if there's a lawsuit against the city? And the idea here is that there are protections in place, and to me, the first stop is with the city attorney to find out what those protections are. Do you need personal legal counsel? Are you defended by the city's legal department? Are you protected by state statute? Now, those are important questions, and I can't answer all those protections, but I know there are protections.
Well, these are just, you know, a few of the 1,000 questions going through my head in the last several months. And I've really struggled with this, because I want to do the right thing. B, I want to do the right thing for the city and the council. And I want to be legal, you know? But I want to have access if it is necessary. So, back to the resolution. So, we have the resolution, so we could act within the confines of the resolution, I suppose.
And my opinion was that it's already in the state statute. Now, the resolution allows the council to emphasize that.
Okay,
And that's, I think, been done.
okay.
But there is a difference in this resolution that I was shown versus the one that you already acted on October 21st. It's not very much.
Right.
It's not very much of a difference, but there is a few words. And I'm gonna stay out of that because I don't know what the differences are in your mind, and I don't know legally what the differences are in what you've already done by passing that resolution.
Does anybody else have anything to say? I'm doing all the talking.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. One of the things that I have a problem with is, say, if it's set up this way so that we can get an attorney, it's got to come before this body, we got to vote on it. That wouldn't take too much time. However, we're what, 6 months at least into this? Just trying to come up with an attorney, trying to come up with a contract, trying to come up with, and you know, maybe some of that is because of the questions of whether or not we're actually going about it the right way. I don't know. But I have some concerns about, one, the amount of time it takes to vet and hire an attorney for the specific thing that we would be looking at. The time it takes to decide on who will be the attorney. Here again, probably going to end up being a majority vote. Can we at least, I mean, within the framework of our rules in city code, come up with a form contract, something ready to go? Can we at least come up with a point person, an attorney that we're going to go to first? So that within a short period of time, we can actually do something. I mean, one of the biggest problems I've seen is if things get stalled long enough, they kind of go away. And things aren't, sometimes you can't do that. You can't let something go away. That's why we've been pushing this all along and been so adamant about trying to get something done. Those are the questions that I have that I think that we need to answer. I brought it up at the last council meeting. I'm a little disappointed in the council that was seated here in 1974 and some of the rules that they put together, rules of order. I'm disappointed because I believe that the way our current rules have allowed a lot of discord among all of us. it's been a poison almost between us, allowing personalities to get involved when it should be business. It shouldn't be. I mean, there are times over this past couple of years that, yeah, we want to give people the right to come here and speak their mind. But I don't want them coming after Jeff and calling him out. And you know, we were all, I think, kind of shell-shocked at that point as what was coming out of the mouth of the person at the podium at the time. I was called out later privately about not defending him. I was as shell-shocked as anybody. I think our rules really need some tightening up, some looking into, and get us in order so that we don't have these things come up all the time.
Well, I would propose that maybe after the first of the year, we form a committee, or we take a vote to see if there's an appetite to form a committee to maybe look into some rules and hire an attorney to help us do that, if you think
Well, and
strongly of it.
and some of these questions I have about the amount of time it takes to get an attorney.
You know, perhaps the city attorney would help us with it.
Could-
We don't
could
know
just
until
as
we
well.
ask.
Be put in those rules as well.
So I just don't want to see us continue to back and forth different versions of different
Exactly.
contracts. I mean, I've seen beaucoup different ones, and then sometimes I come away with the feeling that there's never going to be one that's going to satisfy people.
You'd have to go through the same process. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. If you're going to go, excuse me, for an attorney for a specific reason, you'd have to come to the council for a vote and take a contract to the Board of Works. If there was dissent, you'd have the same kind of issue here. So it's not going.
Well, if you have a 4-3 vote or better,
You probably have that now.
well, but we don't have an issue pending.
It didn't, I didn't understand that point of view until an hour ago.
Yeah, we don't have an issue pending that we need to have an attorney to look into, which
Well-
is the epiphany that I had concerning this issue. I think if we did have an issue, we would probably come together rather quickly to put out that fire. I would hope.
I was just asking the question. I mean, I would be under the impression there would be a contract ready to go.
Okay.
And if the need arises, that's already been done. Now, the only problem is if you're wanting to identify more than one individual, I just asked city attorney, could that special attorney subcontract for your for your council attorney? But that doesn't make sense because that attorney's gonna want a contract as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you had the attorney that you want to be your council attorney, that contract can be in place. The contract, I mean, that was my impression all along, that the contract was gonna be in place. We just wanted to make sure that everybody understood how that individual was to be used. But the contract can be in place. And that action, after a council meeting, that utilization of that attorney could happen right away. You wouldn't have to go back each time you do it and get a contract with the Board of Works. That doesn't make sense. I think you figure out who your council attorney is, you have a contract that's ready to go, and jump in here. But that was my impression all along, that that's how this was gonna play out.
Well, don't you think that what we got as a contract right now would be sufficient?
Well, as Diane put it, I don't even know which contract we're currently referring to. I've seen multiple different versions of different contracts. I think some of the delay that we've had over this period of time, and really the big issue, I think, has become, how do we engage this attorney? And we've heard it would, in some ways, it'd be good if you could just pick up the phone and call that attorney. Well, I don't believe that the statute provides for that, and apparently neither do any of the other cities that employ the attorney that way. But I think if there's an agreement that it comes before the council to choose what issues that attorney is going to focus on, that is what is contemplated by the statute. And from there, I would be advising the Board of Works, 364624 allows them to have an attorney. This contract says it's representing the legislative body, and we know it is because they voted on it. And then you all can have your decision at that time, who you want your committee to be that would interact directly. That I would envision that attorney would still contact all 7 of you immediately about what was discussed, because he would have that obligation. But for the open door issues, I think 3 of you could discuss stuff with them at any given time. You all could discuss that as you went. But I think the real thing that's held this up is coming to the realization that it would have to be a public vote before engaging this attorney on each issue. And then you can, again, as you all have expressed, it might be this particular attorney that you've talked to all along. I think he's very qualified for the majority of the stuff I would think that would come up. There might be some specific niche where a different attorney than Mr. Lehman might be appropriate, and he would probably tell you that if he didn't feel qualified for that issue. But I think I've been clear. I think Mr. Lehman's a good attorney. He's been somewhat responsive, and he's done fine by me. He's got the 12 years experience in municipal law of doing this job. And so I think you've made a good choice as far as that go, who you're contemplating being your normal go-to guy. And I don't think there'd be a problem for him being engaged, but it just would have to be before the Board of Works would approve that issue. And what it also helps is on the backside, after they've done the work and the claim needs to be processed and approved by the Board of Works, the Board of Works, I think, would be expected to approve that contract because they know it came before a public vote here, and that was what the attorney was engaged to do.
Another thing about that is that the city does engage with these specialty attorneys, be it bond counsel, be it employment law, be it environmental. I would certainly hope that you would take advantage of the resources that the city has. And then, if there's not consensus that you feel like that information is good, again, then the issue of hiring a specialized attorney makes sense. But, all from the beginning, I just want to make sure that things aren't being duplicated. Another example is writing ordinances and resolutions. With the mayor being the presider over the meeting, it comes from the city legal department. In a second-class city, it comes from the council attorney because the council runs the meetings. I would expect that we would, at your request, if you have, let's just take, for example, you want to do something, you come to me and say, I want to do this, let's get a committee together, let's do whatever it is we want to do. We'll have the attorney draft a resolution, you all look at it. If you feel it doesn't meet your needs and you can't go back and forth and get it resolved, to me that's a perfect indication that you'd want someone else to take a look at it. And that makes sense to me. I just don't want going outside of what we already pay for. And I know not everything is clear in the state statute, and I know that lawyers don't agree on everything, but the starting point would make sense to utilize the resources that we have, and then if there's concern, then it makes perfect sense to me.
Is there a repository for forms that the city brings up? I mean, I would like to see a form contract, something ready to go, so we don't take a lot of time getting one around again. I don't know that it would reside in the, in the rules or in the code, but that's one thing, I would feel more comfortable if we had something like that ready to go if we needed it. 'Cause like I say, I don't want to stall until, everything just kind of goes away. I've watched these guys in DC do it. Man.
I do want to bring up one other thing. I know we've had this discussion about the rules of order at council meetings. And that discussion's been going on for quite some time. And I know at the time that discussion was coming on, I talked to council president and a few of you about sitting down and saying, how do you want to handle this? Maybe I've erred on the side of letting everybody that comes to the podium talk as long as they want. And, so maybe we have rules. I mean, how are things introduced? I mean, there's certainly rules. I know some councils at the end, when there's public comment, it's some make you sign up for it, some have limited times. There's typically there's no engagement with the council, it's just taking public comment. Those are rules and regulations that all different councils in different cities have. You all as elected officials have the opportunity to get on the listserv. You can pose that question to every council in the state of Indiana, find out what they do. And I actually did that. But again, to me, you all were the ones that were asking for it, and I know we provided some of that information, and I don't know that you need an attorney to do that as much as you all need to sit down and decide what you want. And I think I don't know that that's been delayed, it's just not happened.
Right, and I agree with that. And I've got some ideas now, which I would like to engage the council next year. Looking at what we've got right now, it's really interesting to me that according to what we currently have, all ordinances are supposed to be presented by a council member. And yet, it doesn't seem like it works that way. Unless there's something that I'm missing. I don't know. This is nobody's, I don't fault Joe, I don't fault anybody here other than the fact that, we haven't been paying attention to our own rules. Is that the proper way to do it? I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure that what we're doing now isn't the best way. But, we need to have our rules right, and we need to follow our rules.
I don't think there's ever been an instance that I can remember that if the council wanted to present something, it wasn't presented.
I agree.
I think it goes both ways.
Yeah.
If the redevelopment commission needs something, typically that comes to my office from the redevelopment commission. City attorney drafts it and it gets in. And I understand what you're saying.
And that was just one.
I understand what you're
point.
saying.
It was kind of.
But I don't want the impression to be that the council, there have been many things you all have brought up, but some good things that you all have brought up that we put on and they passed. And that's been done through our city attorney, who's drafted that to your specifications. It still has to go through the public process, obviously. That's what it's all about. And I think, as Scott's mentioning, that's really what this is all about. But I would hope that we could utilize the resources we have. If we can't resolve an issue, it makes perfect sense. The statute says you can have an attorney to do this collectively, and that's what it's all about. It makes sense to me.
Well, I'm just having something down in the rules so that, if we say we want to go ahead and get an attorney, we got the bullet points. We can just go right down the line and say, okay, this is our path, this is the way we do it. We don't stray out of the lines, and there's more of a consensus right off the bat just because we're all following the same rules that we decided on.
I did want to add that I do think that Ms. Quantz, Mr. Clondaris, and Mr. Shoemaker, over these past several months, they've tried very, very hard to give the council what they want as it relates to outside legal counsel, but also to do it legally and also to do it correctly. And those three things are hard sometimes to have happen and quickly. And it does seem like it's taken some time, but it's been a difficult issue, and there's been disagreement. I mean, which is healthy government, I think, but there's been disagreement both within the three of the committee members and my advice and advice from other attorneys, and
You would have thought we
you
were
all
siblings.
here. But I do respect that they all, and you all seem that you just want to get it right.
Yeah.
And that's why it's taken quite some time.
And I would think that it would be best to do it when we don't have the stress of, we got to do it because of this reason. Something comes up, we're in panic mode, or in crisis mode, and we got to get something done. Let's look at it, beforehand, and try to figure out the best path forward. Things come up that have to be hashed out, but get the things out of the way that we know we can agree on up front.
So to move this as expediently as possible, what I would ask the city attorney to do is look at the contract with your council attorney. At the same time, I would want his advice on whether or not the stipulations that we've discussed tonight need to be amended into the resolution that you've already passed. I.e., it says, we want attorney, and maybe there needs to be an amendment that says, this is how we will do this per state statute. And then we've got a document that you've all agreed on that sets the ground rules, and you've got, to me, a simple agreement. This is a very simple agreement. There's nothing in here other than who it is, what they're gonna do for you, how much, and what happens if you don't pay your bill.
That was the idea, keep it simple.
And he made sure he put that in there. So, I really think that the contract itself doesn't have to be difficult. And to Jack's point, I believe there could be boilerplate contracts, if you will, where you fill in the name of the other attorney if that's who you want, and that's ready to go. It would still need to be
Name,
approved
date,
at the Board of
cost.
Works.
That's what I would think. You all know I've questioned this, and I've been wrestling with it. I appreciate everybody's work. This is the process. Remember, at all levels of government, I hate to go government teacher on you, most proposals die in committee because the committee can't work that out, and it's decided we can't present it. I appreciate the efforts. Maybe consider like the mayor and I think Jack, I would like to see this council have the ability, if you decide to go this direction, who knows, I may support it at the end of the day, if all avenues have been exhausted, there still is a conflict with the administration. Council and the other branch of government just cannot work it out. After everything's been exhausted, I'd like to see in the contract that you have the ability to specialize, not just, I've questioned from the beginning, why would you just pick one attorney? There are so many different areas of the law. I'd like this council to have the ability in that contract, if it could get passed, the majority of the group could go find someone, employment, environmental, bonding, whatever, to help with our concerns from the other side of the aisle, not just we're going to pick an attorney and let that attorney take care of it. I'd like to see it more specialized and something in that contract, if so. Jeff talking.
The only thing I might add to that is it might be good to have a starting point or a starting attorney that you
Yes.
could go to and say, hey,
And then-
I'll just use layman, hey, Doug, we have a problem and this may not be your field of expertise. Who could you direct us to?
That type of direction, and maybe the committee,
Or we
working
could
with
use
our
Scott.
attorney, could
Use the
work
city
through
attorney.
that and put that in there somehow. I think that would be, if it's passed, that would be, heck, before it's even passed, it would help the proposal, I think.
So again, I think I'm going to direct the city attorney to create an amendment that addresses his concerns, that we can amend the resolution that you all passed, that you can amend the resolution to your satisfaction. At the same time, I'm going to have him look at this agreement that you've proposed, which again looks pretty simple and basic, and provided that that resolution is amended, to me, that would go to the next Board of Works, that contract, and then it would be kind of a blanket contract that, following those procedures, is amended in the resolution. You're ready to go. And then if it looks you need somebody different, you know, we'll have it contracted. It's probably gonna be delayed by a Board of Works cycle, but, I mean, we deal with that all the time when we're looking at consultants in the city, so that's not anything out of the ordinary.
I'd like to make the point too that I can appreciate, Jeff, what you're saying as far as being able to go to a different attorney, somebody specialized. I don't believe that should be put in the contract, but in rules that would govern this body as to how we get that contract to an attorney.
Yeah, however, we would need an attorney to figure that out, but I would love for this board to have that option in that contract. We can move through a point attorney, like Mike has said, and you're saying, and we can go to, or the majority of the council could go that direction. I think that would promote good government and allow this body to, the best of our ability as a body, to go after the administration, or it could be somebody petitioning the city. We would be all more effective whether all of us were in the majority vote or not. If I don't want the environmental attorney and I get outvoted 6-1, I still am going to benefit with the body to deal with the disagreement that the majority of the body has, if that makes any sense.
I don't think the simplicity of that contract, excuse me, really does limit it to one attorney, does it?
I would hope, that's what I'm saying, I would hope
You mean the
not.
resolution?
I would hope
Because
not.
the resolution
Yes.
doesn't,
I'm
it
sorry,
doesn't,
resolution.
it doesn't list anybody's name on it.
That's me.
That's
Yeah,
why
and I
we
agree.
passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, the only thing I would say is, I would expect you all to utilize the resources of the city that we've already got. And only then, if there's an impasse or a concern, then everything
And
should
we'll
be
know
ready
that
to
pretty
roll.
quick.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think we need to take any action tonight, other than Scott will come back probably the next meeting, first meeting, or somewhere in January, with an amendment to the resolution, and he'll look at the contract, and once that resolution is amended, I'd say if that contract meets his approval, we'll take it to Board of Works, and then it'll be ready to go.
Mayor, would it be appropriate if, we have quite a large audience here, I think there's a real interest in this topic. Would it be appropriate to maybe just hear of any suggestions or ideas from the audience?
I'd be open to that.
And before anybody comes up, I would hope, I don't know what the rules are, Mayor, but I would like whatever that is that's proposed by the attorney and/or the committee, I would like this board to see it first before the Board of Works.
Yeah.
I think they should.
Okay, I heard you say Board of Works, and I was like, I would like
You mean
us,
contract?
yeah, whatever it is that he works out, we would see it before the Board of Works would. Is that,
Oh, I think that's,
Oh, yeah,
okay,
it's
good.
appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
anybody have a comment? Come to the podium, state your name, please. Craig? State your name, Craig.
Or I used to be Dave, remember? But I'm a lot heavier than Dave. Anyways, I'm Craig Dayrocker. I appreciate the council going forward on the council attorney. I think that's important. That, you know, we have mayors, 7 council people that have independent, separate minds and opinions and way they see things. And I think this is the right thing. I'm glad you're working hard and with frustration to get this done. And today's development, I think, will help solve some of the trepidation of how would this work. I think that's a good solution where there's a particular issue at a moment, and you guys would vote for it at that time, and it would pass or not. Another thing is, I like kind of what Joe said, what I heard was, you have the resolution, you get it through the Board of Works. So then when there is that issue that comes up, if you have a majority that want to go with your council attorney on a particular issue, that you don't have to run it back through the Board of Works if you're using your default, attorney, that you're ready to go. So it sounds like you're getting closer to something that'll work. And I appreciate your efforts and time on this.
All right, thank you.
It's been a long and winding road.
Anybody else?
I found your poll, Dan, really interesting. That was pretty active.
Closer than expected.
Yeah? Yeah.
Everything's close.
Wasn't split,
That's 54%.
yes, like 54%, was
Yeah.
back and forth.
Yeah.
All right, so I think
Thank you, Craig.
there's a direction that's being taken, and we'll certainly move forward with it. And I think the discussion tonight, I think, cleared a lot of the issues, and
I
still
really
unsure.
appreciate sitting here tonight and talking about this. I think it was really, really important. I have really struggled with this issue. And I thank everybody for your patience. The committee didn't always agree. Like I said, we were like siblings, these two against these two, and then these two against those two, and these three against that one. It's been tough. It's really, really been tough. So thank you for your patience, everybody. You just know that we want to do the right thing, and we have to do the thing that's going to be lasting and workable. We could probably, pass something tonight, and it probably wouldn't work. So we want to do it right.
Thanks to the committee and thanks to Scott Royce for all your hard work.
Okay. Well, that is a segue into new business, and I wanted to have a little bit of discussion about a strategic planning session that'll occur the next month or two with our new council. I know we had done that back in 2012. American Structure Point came in and facilitated, I think it was 3 evening meetings that we were able to come up with a list of goals, and that document became really critical and important as we moved through council and redevelopment commission business. In 2016, I know Jeremy, we kind of did an in-house version of that to update it, and to that end, that we've got that published upstairs. It's not quite as detailed as the original one was in 2012. So in 2020, I'm asking Baker Tilly to come in and facilitate a strategic plan sometime again as we start the new year, sooner than later. They had some questions about how we all want to do it, whether we want to do maybe a couple half-day meetings, potentially even just do a retreat type of situation for a day or two, or some half-day meetings, or we can hammer out evening meetings. Just think about it. I'm not going to poll everybody now, but I know how critical and important this is, that we sit down like we're doing now. I think that 2016, as informal as that one was, what came out of that was establishing, our website and social media presence that we needed. Communication really was the prime focus of that meeting, that our process be improved. And it was a tremendous result that came out of that meeting. So those are the kinds of things that just an example that we will talk through. We'll look at economic development, we'll look at housing, we'll look at everything we've talked about, all the great things that have happened, but how do we sustain that and where do we go? And are our pillars still the same? Are there some changes we need to make? I'm really excited about it, but I need everybody, at least from the council standpoint, to commit to get this done. I know that will then follow up with some department head discussion. And Jack, you can jump in here as well, but our finance committee, which is made up of Jeremy, Lynn, Jack, and myself, which is Clerk Treasurer's Office, Redevelopment Commission, Council, and the Mayor's Office, we'll be engaging with Baker Tilly to look at some efficiencies in the city as we've grown, and to try and look at issues like IT, city garage. There's some departments that are just overwhelmed at capacity, over capacity. So the idea is we want to bring some outside eyes and look at some efficiencies and potential changes in organization. But that's going to start with that strategic plan. And I just want you all to be aware that your part will be the foundational piece to that as we then move ahead with about a 3 to 4 month process. Jack, comments on that?
Yeah, I really like the idea of not only the strategic plan, but this, the conference that.
Organizational review.
Organizational review. And there had been some discussion about, maybe doing a session, maybe even a day long, with the council. And I get it, you might, oh man, a whole day? Sometimes it takes a little while to break down some of the barriers that we've built up over the years to get to talk to each other on a more personal level and realize that, I guess it's not as bad as what's going on in DC right now, but you kind of wonder how in the world these guys can go out and have a beer together.
I don't think they do anymore.
I don't think they do anymore. And, I would like to see us all polling as a team, whether we're all Republicans or not. And I think that something like this could be invaluable. It may look to some as if they're just out having a good time, but there's some real items that can be brought out in settings like that. Industry does it all the time, and they don't do it unless they get some money back, So.
School Corporation, I think, does it annually.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, I can't promote it enough, I guess.
I'm anxious to do it, especially before we do any more intersection changes, because this last one has been pretty devastating. Downtown, we still don't have any street lights, half of our wreaths don't work, and it was really.
You can thank NIPSCO for that.
Yeah, but it's just, the Christmas season when you want your downtown to look nice, ours is just kind of ratty right now.
Anybody else? All right, so that's all I got on that. I just want you to think about, if we, I know you're gonna need time to make some arrangements. If half days would work better, if, maybe starting at 3 and going, a working dinner, maybe a 4 or 5 hour mid-afternoon through early, middle evening, that's one option. Or maybe knock it out in a day or two. Just think about it. We'll talk about that as we move ahead.
So what role exactly will Baker Tilly play in this?
They will facilitate it like American Structure Point did. There'll be a set of outside eyes facilitating. And, I just went to the school corporation, the one they did, and it's hard to look from within at what's going on in the city. It's much easier for an outsider to be able to do that, especially this organizational review.
Okay.
They are requiring some strategic planning to do that organizational review. So it dovetails with what we do, what I've been doing at the first of every one of my terms. And should we do it more frequently? Probably, but it's hard enough to get everybody together. So having someone outside putting this thing together, creating a document that we can follow, somewhat like a comprehensive plan. But again, a strategic plan is not as detailed as a comp plan. And you remember, I think you all have a copy of the one from 2012, and go back and take a look at that, and it'll give you an idea of how they facilitated that and what we came up with. So I just know the last one we had some good things come up, but with the growth that we're having, with the organizational review, with them wanting a strategic plan, it just makes sense to do it all at once. And fortunately, the timing is perfect for the new council. So think about that. We'll get back with you as far as how we want to put that together. I know they're going to have some questions. They're going to have a recommendation, but I want to be able to make it work for everybody. So,
So Mayor, could I have 30 seconds?
sure.
As everyone probably knows, this is my last meeting here, and I want to thank everybody on this panel. It's been a real good journey. It's been an interesting and quick journey for me, and as I was contemplating on this journey, I was reminded of Psalms, where it says that our life and our works are almost like a flower. It's here today and gone tomorrow, but the loving kindness of Jesus is always there for people that fear him. And I found that interesting. It's been a pleasure to work with some fine people. It's been my honor to represent the citizens of Warsaw. I'm looking forward to doing what I can to make Warsaw better still, and who knows, we could be teammates again. Who knows? But I just want to say God bless Warsaw, and God bless, please, God bless this country. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ron.
All right. Well, you got a little ahead of us, Ron. Cindy, you're up.
Okay, this evening, it is my privilege to recognize Councilman Ron Shoemaker. He has served the 2nd District since the fall of 2015. And while it is a pleasure to recognize him, it's also a little bit bittersweet. But of course, Josh Finch will be taking over his place, and he'll have some big shoes to fill there. And I kind of want to personally thank Ron. I know he has a servant's heart, and he loves this community. As a downtown merchant, stepping aside from my councilman activities, Ron is always there on First Fridays. He has been a great supporter of things like the Spooktacular, the Downtown Development Tour, and I really think in serving as a council member, it is really important to get out and become involved in some of those activities, and he certainly has done that. Ron, my pleasure.
Thank you so much. That's really nice.
All right, thank you, Ron. Thank you, Cindy. Any other items to come forward?
I just want to say, I think Josh is going to do a really good job. I'm looking for great things out of you.
Josh, you want to say anything?
Thank you, and I really look forward to working with each and every one of you, and really excited to get started.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
The railroad crossings, where are we on? Have they come yet? Has the railroad people come?
Which one, the north-south or the
The
east-west?
east-west?
They have assured me that their engineers are looking at everything,
Okay.
and you know, I hear that quite a bit, and
Yeah.
I've called them several times. They're on their own schedule,
Kind of like NIPSCO. Yeah.
yes.
I just wanted to ask. I hadn't heard anything, and
I would also like to give kudos to Mike Lohr for helping to put together
gosh, yes.
the Suzie McIntyre
Yeah.
performance on Saturday night. It was quite well attended. They collected tons of toys for Toys for Tots, and I know it's a lot of work, but it's appreciated.
You outdid yourself this year. It was good.
You got ahead of me again, Cindy. Yeah, I certainly, I had it written down, but that's okay. Have at it. No, Mike, I read the article tonight in the newspaper, and they talked about the 11 large boxes of toys, and it sounds like Susie made the rounds as far as going.
It wasn't the largest crowd, it was the second largest.
Yeah, well, she's got a great voice and is there for the right
I
reasons.
hope she comes back next year.
Already the ones.
This concert has really become an asset to Warsaw. It really has.
Anybody else? Visitors' comments?
I'd like to keep encouraging people to keep coming to these meetings too.
Sure.
Well, I'm here representing 26 fourth graders from Jefferson Elementary.
Wonderful.
And we've read your minutes from October and November, and I summarized them for them, and they have thank you and Christmas cards.
Oh,
for you.
gosh.
And I'm afraid I didn't know all of you would be here tonight, and so I have most of you. But
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so we'll take a few weeks off for some holidays, I think well-deserved, and get back ready to roll in January. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
We're still having ongoing problems at Little Crow Lofts. They moved our handicap parking in the rear of the building, and the handicap entrance is in the front of the building. What can we do about it? And there's getting to be an issue of dead cars getting in the parking lot, and regional manager says we can't get them towed.
Why?
That's a good question, why?
I'd be glad to get on the phone with the manager tomorrow, and I'll talk about both of those issues. Those aren't things we have any control over, but we can certainly
I really
call.
appreciate that, because I live in the back of the building, on the east side of the building, the handicap entrance on the west side. I can't walk that far.
No.
If it wouldn't be for this thing here, I wouldn't be going anywhere.
You say dead cars, you mean just abandoned cars, vehicles?
Abandoned,
Okay.
broke down, whatever, just.
Are they residents of the facility, or people just coming
We
in?
really don't know who they belong to.
Well, we got an ordinance that covers that, so.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
probably
That's
they're
private
If
property,
they're there 3 days, you can tag them and they get towed.
Yeah.
but that's private property. I mean, it would have to come from their management, but I would be happy.
Well,
discuss it.
I think we've
our,
done,
our property manager was getting that taken care of, but the regional manager called and said we couldn't do that. Which I think is a fraud.
Okay,
And,
you know, I'll get a
if you
few
want to get
names.
hold of her name is.
And wait, after the meeting, I'll get a few names.
Okay,
That'd be great. Thank you.
no problem.
Okay. Anybody else?
Scott, thanks for your help.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I think it's unanimous. All right, thank you very much.
We love you, Dad.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Dad, congratulations.
Maybe not that
Now you're both sitting. So thank you. Hey, good to see you. Thanks for doing this. Nice of you. Yeah, thank you very